Hi everyone! Today I'm going to read you this story. It's called The Graves Family Goes Camping. And this is a pretty long book, so I'm only going to read half of it today and then we'll read the other half tomorrow. The Graves Family Goes Camping. Dr. Graves, that was not the first page. For the Graves family, the summer brought a familiar uneasiness. On this day, the very air was crackling with anticipation. A cold chill hissed along the floorboards of the house, sending the family spiders scampering for their webs. The fountain in the front garden spewed blood-red liquid as birds exploded in panicked flight for nearby trees, fleeing what seemed to be an unseen terror. "Oh, how lovely, Shiloh Graves!" exclaimed as she peered out of the kitchen window, surveying the gloom that shrouded the day. "A perfect summer day for our annual camping trip." Dr. Graves, knowing that it was nearly time to leave for the annual family camping trip, was desperately searching his shelves for just the right map. Now he climbed a tall ladder and pulled a dusty, ancient scroll from the highest shelf. "Here it is," he announced as he blew clouds of dust from the parchment and rolled it out on the desk. Ronnie and his best friends, Seth and Sarah, along with the family spiders, leaned over the map with great interest as Dr. Graves traced the map with his finger. "There it is, Lake Bleakmire," he called out. "And no one knows it's there but us, Dad?" Ronnie asked quietly. "Almost no one," Dr. Graves answered, lost in thought. "Surrounded by a rocky escarpment, with only one hidden tunnel leading through it, it is a place that time has forgotten, untouched, a place legends are made of. Oh, children, just think what we might find there. A new species of spiders, giant swamp leeches, even the warty Totus uglycus. And," his voice dropped to a whisper, "perhaps creatures for which we have no names. But now it's away to the car. We are ready to be underway," Dr. Graves announced, rolling up the map. The tiny pink trailer stood waiting in their driveway, behind a car jammed with people and paraphernalia, as Dr. Graves checked off his list. "Foodstuffs and camping supplies? We've got them," cooed Mrs. Graves. "Dune buggies and sailboats? Got them too," Ronnie called out. "Family spiders and bats on board?" Dr. Graves checked. The quadruplets shook their heads in the affirmative. "Summer guests?" Dr. Graves chortled as he peered in at Seth and Sarah. "Hurrah!" they both answered. "Scientific equipment?" he said, checking the last item on his list. "You packed that yourself," Mrs. Graves answered. "I feel like we've forgotten something," Dr. Graves said thoughtfully. "Phoebe!" everyone in the car shouted. "Oh, of course, Phoebe!" Dr. Graves called out as he pushed the family's giant Venus flytrap and resident nanny into the car. So as I'm reading this, I'm noticing this is a really interesting family. They have a Venus flytrap as a pet, and they're bringing all this stuff on their camping trip with them. Just as the Graves' car pulled out of the driveway, Bill and Nancy Miller, Seth and Sarah's parents, ran up to the car and leaned into the window. "Now you too mind Shiloh, Phoebe, and Dr. Graves," Mr. Miller said to the children. "Oh, and Doug, don't forget you have to be back a few days before the 4th of July. The town council of Union City is expecting you to personally oversee setting up the fireworks." "Not to worry, Bill," Dr. Graves called out, shifting into 12th gear. "Tell Mayor Trenchmouth that, as always, I am in complete control. This will be the biggest 4th of July show that Union City has ever seen. Trust me." Then, with a wave, Dr. Graves gunned out of the driveway. The little pink trailer tilted, a bevy of bats flying from its belfry, and the car sped off, leaving a trail of exhaust behind it. They were underway. It was a long, hot drive, punctuated by taking the irreversible paths turnoff from 69 North, then crossing Pitfall Bridge, turning left at Long Bowel Caves, and chugging up Amputation Ridge, slogging over harrowing narrows, and finally squeezing through the long escarpment tunnel that led into the dreadful valley. The forest got dark, dense, and foul, only to open up suddenly to threatening skies and a large, murky lake. "Bleakmire," Dr. Graves whispered, then bellowed, "We're here," as the whole tribe piled out of the car. Dr. Graves pushed a button on the console of the car. Seth and Sarah stood back in utter amazement as the little pink trailer disconnected itself and shivered for a moment. With that, the little pink trailer sprang into action. Awnings unfurled, the door swung open and belched out a fountain, an arbor, and a fence with its own gate. A large picnic table shot out, along with assorted lawn chairs, a hammock, and a swing. Then came a small boat, a barbecue pit, a stunning array of scientific equipment, and finally, 2 garden gargoyles. "Oh," cooed Mrs. Graves, patting them just like home. "Now you children go inside, make your beds, and wash up for lunch. Phoebe and I will have it ready in a jiffy." Seth and Sarah couldn't believe their eyes when they went into the little pink trailer. They were standing in a very large entry hall with marble floors. Then they walked into a great room with vaulted ceilings and a massive fireplace at the end. Just off from that room was a cavernous dining room with a table long enough to seat 40 people. Seth and Sarah looked up at Ronnie. "Don't ask," Ronnie said to them. "One of Dad's inventions. Something about bending space into an alternative continuum. He says he needs room for the specimens we'll be collecting." After lunch, a lunch of toasted Fijian jellyfish and strawberry malted eyeball milk, Dr. Graves and the children packed their backpacks and hiked out on their first expedition into the Bleakmire forest. They could hardly wait to go. From the moment they stepped into the forest, the place looked like some place they had never seen before. "Positively prehistoric," Dr. Graves said, as he took out his specimen case. Seth and Sarah had never seen spiders and snakes the size that they were seeing. On one particularly swampy bog, Seth stopped for a rest, unwrapping a sandwich for a snack, and a slimy tongue whipped out of nowhere and grabbed his sandwich. He was face to face with the biggest, slimiest toad he had ever seen. Dr. Graves wrestled Seth's hand out of the toad's ugly kiss's mouth and tucked the toad into his specimen case. This was going to be the most amazing camping trip ever. For the next 2 days, Dr. Graves and the children explored the nighttime woods and slimy swamps of Bleakmire. They even took a small boat out to Queemich Island, a small island that changed its position in the lake with the tides. And everywhere they collected gnashing narps, pernicious nids, galloping bilge leeches, and spotted tree spunkers. They filled every specimen bottle and basket Dr. Graves had brought, and filled up every other glass and container in Mrs. Graves' cupboard, even her refrigerator and her dresser drawers. No question, Dr. Graves and the children were having the exploration of their lives. Then, on the 3rd day, Dr. Graves decided it was time to explore the deepest, densest part of the forest. Oh, gotta show you the picture. The trees seemed to grow taller when all of a sudden, in the deepest, densest part, a very large furry spider slid down her silken web and stopped right in front of Dr. Graves' face. "Hand me a specimen cage, Ronnie," Dr. Graves called out. But as Ronnie handed him the cage, Ronnie suddenly disappeared. Seth and Sarah jumped to where he was standing, and they disappeared too. Dr. Graves stepped to see where they had all gone, and he, too, vanished. With a loud crash, Dr. Graves landed just by the children. They had all fallen into a very deep hole. Dr. Graves looked up. The hole was too deep for any of them to climb out, even if they stood on each other's shoulders. There was no way seems like a good place to stop for today. So we'll find out if they make it out of that hole and what else happens to the Graves family on their camping trip tomorrow. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your day.